Okay there, Chris from Gardensteading here today. In one of my last videos, I basically planted this little blueberry bush here in this birdie's garden bed. Now this is a 700 ml garden bed, and as soon as I put this in, and I did position it off to the side because I thought, you know, if I put a couple more plants in there, it's going to be better value. And also one of the things that I read once I put that in and kind of went, what's a good companion plant? I read basically they fruit better with another blueberry. Now I have ended up with just another of the sunshine blues, which is the same as this one here. They do apparently grow to 1 meter, so I might be kind of pushing it, putting the two in the same pot together. Originally, what I was thinking of doing is I was gonna have another one of these beds just down here and do the same thing. But I think what I'll do in the meantime is actually perhaps add the blueberry. I'm a little bit unsure on that one, but what I did read was some good companion plants, and I'm not really sure how true this is thyme, and I got a pizza, and I got a lemon here, so I got the two varieties, and I do really like having these for cooking, so I thought these were actually an ideal addition to this little garden bed here. And then I got some sage as well, which was another recommendation. There was a heap of things recommended, and I'm taking that recommendation list with a pinch of salt, simply because they were recommending things like mint, but then saying that, you know, you needed a kind of a root divider to stop the mint from taking over. And I'm not exactly sure what they were basing that on. I think it was mainly on soil type. So obviously we've used a gardenia soil mix for the blueberries because that's what they like. And I think they were mainly suggesting plants which like a similar kind of pH and soil. But in some of the cases, those recommendations, I could see there being quite a bit of a clash with the plant. Like I said, like the mint. And I love mint, but it tends to take over. I didn't want anything that was overly competing with my blueberry. And so, yeah, I'm agonizing over, do I put the second bed in, perhaps not today, and just add these as the companion plants for this one, and maybe get some pea moss or something like that in here just to help keep the moisture in, because it has heated up in the last week enormously and it's drying out quite quickly. Or do I add them all in? I'll start off with my thyme, because basically this is going in no matter what, and I want to get everything in the ground. What I'm actually noticing is plants are starting to get a little bit frazzled if they're left out for too long. That's fairly root bound there. I'm going to break those roots up a little bit. Not because it's recommended to do so, I have no idea, but simply to hopefully get this growing and expanding out a little bit quicker. And I mean, it doesn't get any simpler than that. That is our pizza time. And I'll just get the little sticker out because I will forget what I've planted, and I want to keep kind of tabs on what I've put in, both for video usage and also so that I actually remember what's in there. And I'm actually just going to stick that right down in there. It doesn't need to be super visible. And then we've got our lemon thyme, and the lemon thyme obviously, as you'd imagine, has a little bit more of like a zest to it. I have grown these both before. We'll put this one up here, up the back. And the one thing about this gardenia soil that I've used, the mix, is it's drying out quite noticeably. It's quite a loamy soil as well. And that's why I'm thinking putting some pea moss on to keep the moisture in, because I can definitely see I've had stuff sitting out in pots for a couple of weeks in some cases and it's been no problem at all. Now that it's getting sunnier and warmer more consistently, things are starting to get a little bit frazzled. My Davidson plum that we planted yesterday it was perfectly fine, and I watered it yesterday as well, and came out today and a lot of the leaves had actually been frazzled. And so with that in mind, I kind of went, wow, we've got to prioritize getting things in the ground. I have been procrastinating, which is never a good thing. The procrastination in the garden, maybe I should do a video on that. I'm an absolute expert on the procrastination. But it's meant that I've left things a little bit too late, which obviously is not ideal. And I'm kind of feeling that now, mainly because I was looking at my citrus and it's bloomed, and I should have cut that back maybe a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, that was a silly one. That's on me, but you live and you learn. As long as you're learning from your mistakes, you're moving forward, and that's what I'm aiming for here. And of course, if you've got any advice at all that you think will be of value, I'm always open to it, because if there's one thing that I've really found, it's that the online advice can be very, very contradictory. I'm kind of overplanting these here because we'll see what survives essentially, and I got 3 more of these. Now my other garden bed that's down there, which was my really cheap garden bed, the soil in that's not that good, and so I'm actually going to be replanting some stuff in there to make up for the fact that almost all of my lettuces died. Some of the peas, no, was it peas or cucumbers? I think some of the cucumber plants died as well. So I'm going to chuck some hardy stuff in there, and I'll probably try some of my sage plants as well and just see how they go down in that garden bed, because at the moment that garden bed is the garden bed of death, and not really too sure how it'll survive. Whereas I reckon this has got the much more expensive soil in it. It's got the more specific soil for the plants in this garden bed. I have left this little corner here free, and I do have this extra blueberry. Should I put it in? That's the big question. You know what? I'm just going to do it, because while these apparently can grow to 1 metre, thinking about kind of the size of this pot, I reckon we'll be right with 2 in opposite corners, and also because of this spacing, they shouldn't be shading each other too much. There might be some complications in the future, but we'll get these in the ground, because this one is also, like this one here, is all budded up, and so it's probably a good idea to get it in. Let's avoid that procrastination. And the roots on that one aren't that deep into the pot. I'm going to let the sun go down a little bit further, and then I'm going to water all of these with a bit of sea salt, because at the moment the sun's still coming across and I don't really want to frazzle things if I can avoid it. I normally try, as a general rule, to not water when things are in direct sunlight, and I don't know if that's an old wives' tale or actual good advice, but that's something that I've been following, and I've always had good results, and I've seen some bad results when that rule hasn't been followed, which is why I feel it's worth mentioning. And because this is going to be, technically speaking, our main sage, we will put that in just there, just as a reminder of what we've got here. So yeah, we've got our pizza thyme, we've got our lemon thyme, we've got our little extra blueberry in here, we've got some sage through the middle. This is my attempt at companion planting. We will find out if it's true at all. The other thing I did buy that I've heard is good to just kind of intersperse in your vegetable patches and stuff is a little bit of marigold. But that wasn't specifically for this garden bed, so we'll see how we go with that one. Obviously, we're going to keep these pots because we'll have some use for them in the future, no doubt. And this little garden bed here has gone from looking fairly meagre and unimpressive to a little bit more filled out, and hopefully everything survives. I will be keeping a little bit of a closer eye on it and giving it a bit of water, and as I said, probably chucking some pea moss on to help with the water retention and just keep a bit of dampness in the soil, but without overdoing it, because obviously I don't want to bake things, as that is another concern. So this is my favourite garden bed at the moment. Obviously things are going to change over time. You do notice I've got my dragon fruit over there, still agonising over where I'm going to plant it, which is a little bit of a problem. I'm not doing myself any favours there. But this is the blueberry garden. if you want to call it that. It is a little small garden bed, one of the little birdie 700mm round garden beds. And yeah, this blueberry is going really, really well. It's growing exponentially, really. It's really gained quite a bit of height. It's got berries all over it, which hopefully those will ripen up and we'll get to harvest some of those. The companion planting with the two different types of the thyme, I think it's pizza and regular, or lemon actually, has gone well. The little blueberry over the back here, which just to fill out the bed a little bit more, is going well as well. The sages, meh, they're not really doing anything crazy at this stage, but they're still alive, so I can't complain. This bed is certainly the big success at this point in time. However, I do need to remember that this tree above me will eventually reshoot and it will provide a little bit more shade. And so we'll have to see just how this goes when that's the case. I think by that time the blueberry will have stopped fruiting, so it may not really be a concern at all, and it may just help protect this garden through summer, which works for me. But it's really time to get the dragon fruit into the garden, into a forever home for it, so that not only can I train it up something, but I also can start working on getting some fruit out of it.